Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the next lesson, lesson 4 of Alif to Ya Tajweed course. We'll continue with the etiquettes of what we've mentioned before and add a new one today. And Al-Lisaan is what we'll be covering today as well. So we'll actually move on to the tongue, Makhraj today, covering specifically Lahawiyyah, Shajariyyah, which are just two of the many areas in the tongue area. In terms of etiquettes, the 5 we mentioned so far are to be in a state of wudu, and my encouragement is always challenge yourself to be in a routine of always being in wudu. When you go to the toilet, you wash yourself, you wash your hands, you perform wudu. Always challenge yourself to be in a state of wudu, even sleep with wudu as well, as is the sunnah. Begin your recitation with the ta'awudh, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, and then say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Recite with tartil, which is a slow, balanced, measured tone, and recite out loud, but be careful not to disturb others nor to show off. Which leads us to our next point, which is to beautify the recitation. Now there's a hadith that mentions لَيْسَ مِنَّا مَنْ لَمْ يَتَغَنَّ بِالْقُرْآنِ. He who does not recite the Qur'an in a pleasant tone is not of us. And the Qur'an is something that is, when I say recite it, you don't read it, you recite it, you say it with a tune to the best of ability. However, you do not let that tune affect your tajweed, as we'll discuss shortly. The tune takes a lot of time to develop. Just because you're inspired by Mishari al-Afasi, for example, does not mean you're going to recite like him. What I often challenge people to do is don't aim to recite like somebody, aim to be your own person. So I went through a phase where I tried to imitate people. And then when I listened to recording, I said, oh, that doesn't sound good. I tried to imitate different qurra, different reciters. And what ended up happening is I started combining different tunes and adjusting my own tune. Now, even to this day, I don't have a fixed tune. So the tune takes some time and a lot of practice to develop. And it usually comes with what my teachers say when they read a lot of Qur'an consistently, then they hit a certain point where the jamal, the beauty of the Qur'an, that becomes identified to a teacher. And that cannot happen after one, two, three juz reading to a teacher, not just reading by yourself, by the way, reading to a teacher. It can come after a half of a Qur'an. It might come after several khatams of the Qur'an. But there's a certain point. So for example, if you listen to a hafiz reciting Tarawih, you notice that the vast majority of them, or even all of them, they'll have a certain flow. When you try to imitate that yourself, you don't have that flow. And that comes with a lot of practice. Now, the key thing about a tune is that it must not affect tajweed. It must not affect your tajweed. So if your purpose is to recite in a beautiful way, but it's lacking tajweed, this is where this is a mistake. It's a mistake, and it could be a major mistake or a minor mistake, but it's still a mistake. And so the student of tajweed needs to realize who is reciting with a good tune and with good tajweed, and who is reciting with a good tune but with poor tajweed. Of course, which one's better? Which one takes precedence? The one with tajweed. Tajweed takes precedence. Even when selecting an imam, if there's a hafiz that's an imam, but his tajweed is poor, and there's somebody else that's not a hafiz, he has the requirements to lead salah, and his tajweed is good, and that person will take precedence because he has the correct tajweed. Whereas a hafiz, if he's making a major mistake, then he shouldn't really be leading in that situation between those two. And so we continue with our recap of what we covered. So we are doing lesson 1. We're going through the Makhraj, which is page 38 and 39 of the actual physical book, but in a scanned copy of the PDF, which you can find in the Telegram channel, Fussilat Academy Telegram channel. It's pages 3 and 4 in the PDF. Now, the tip here when you teach children is you can teach them the sounds. You can teach them sounds, you can even show them the shape, but take time with it because the makhraj is one of, if not the most important part of the tajweed. Al-Lisaan, the tongue. This is the largest makhraj area. There are 10 specific areas and 18 letters that originate from the tongue. So the tongue will touch a certain part of the mouth, and there's 10 specific areas. There'll be 18 letters. Now, with the tongue, there are 4 areas of the tongue. Aqsa al-lisan, which is the back of the tongue. Wasat al-lisan, which is the middle of the tongue, and the front, which is taraf al-lisan, the front of the tongue. There's also the sides of the tongue known as hafat al-lisan. Now, these can be broken up even more. So the back sides of the tongue actually has the back side and the front sides, but we're not going to go into the details of that. As same with the front of the tongue, there's the front of the tongue and then there's the tip of the tongue, but we're not going to go into that. Just know this for in terms of brief area or broad areas of the tongue, there are 4 broad areas. We are going to be focused on Qaaf and Kaaf, which is the back area. But the other letters from this area are Sheen, Jeem, and Ya, which we'll also do today. So we will cover the back and the middle of the tongue today. The area with the most letters is the front of the tongue, which has ta, da, tha in one area, tha, tha, dha in one area, za, sa, and sa in another area. So those are 3 specific areas there. Then there's noon, which is a specific area, ra, which is a specific area, lam, lam and dad, which are their own specific areas. So tomorrow we will cover dad, lam, noon, and ra. And today we're going to cover qaf, kaf, sheen, jeem, and ya, inshallah ta'ala. Now, let's begin. The area at the back is known as, in terms of specific area, is known as Lahawiyyah. Lahawiyyah. And here you have qaf and kaf. When you pronounce Qaaf and Kaaf, your tongue is touching different parts of your palate. Okay? And we're going to discuss what the palate means and what part of it is shortly. Let's begin with Qaaf. This is another full mouth letter. Okay? So one of the clear distinguishing factors between a Qaaf and a Kaaf is a Qaaf is full mouth. So notice the difference. Qaaf, Kaaf. And in the very first lesson, we gave an example. Kalb, qalb. Qalb is heart, which is with a qaf. Kalb with a kaf, which we'll discuss a bit later on, is with a kaf, means dog. So note that they are very sensitive. Qaf, kaf. It is pronounced when the back of your tongue touches the soft palate. Now, how do you identify where the soft palate is? I want you all to do this. Okay, and I'm going to actually ask for a volunteer who's not comfortable with this letter rather, to put their hand up so that I can guide them towards it. Before I do that, so in the meantime, you can raise your hands. Before I do that, what I want you all to do is get your tongue, get the front of your tongue and put it at the top of your mouth. Touch the gum. And then I want you to, just the tip of the tongue, I want you to slide it back along the gum. So it's touching the gum. So imagine this. This is the gum. Here's your tongue. I want you to, just the tip of it, I want you to slide it back until you reach like a soft part. So slide it back. All the way back as if you're trying to swallow your tongue like a C, and then you'll feel something soft. That soft part is where the back of your tongue touches to make the qaf sound. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Okay, so I want you to roll your tongue along your upper palate until you feel something soft. Tell me when you feel it. Do you feel it?
Yeah, I can feel it.
Okay, so the back of your tongue is going to touch that bit to say qaf, qaf. Try it for me.
Qaaf,
A bit more full mouth.
qaaf,
Good, good. Now I want you to say qaqiqu.
qaqiqu,
Good. And now say qalbuhu
qalbuhu,
yaqulu
yaqulu,
walyattaqi.
walyattaqi,
Walyattaqi.
walyattaqi.
So at the moment, what you did is you added a shadda on the qaf, but let's not worry about that. My main focus is in the qaf kasra, or just the qaf at the end. So that's how it looks at the end. So well done, that was pronounced fine. So this is how qaf looks in the beginning, middle, and end. Qalbuhu yaqulu walyattaqi. So, mashallah, jazakallah khairah, very well done. This is often a letter that is confused quite a lot. Assalamu alaikum.
عليكم السلام.
If you start with the gold letters at the top, then the words at the bottom.
قيق
Do that one more time.
قيق
Qa, qi, qu.
قيق
Good. And the words at the bottom.
قلبه
Good.
يقول
Good.
وليتقي.
Good. Jazakallahu khairah. Very good. Let's move on to Kaaf. Kaaf is the empty mouth version. So it's when the back of your tongue, same place, but it touches the hard palate. It touches the hard palate. So just in front of the soft palate, where the soft palate starts, just in front of that, Kaaf, Kaaf. So Qaaf, Kaaf. When you say it, I want you to picture what's going on in your mind. Oh, picture what's going on in your mouth, rather. You can actually feel when you say Qaaf that your tongue is at the back. When you say Kaaf, you can feel it going forward. So say Qaaf, Kaaf, Qaaf, Kaaf, Qaaf, Kaaf. You can actually feel your mouth going forward. Qaaf, Kaaf, Qaaf, Kaaf. Okay? Ka, ki, ku, katibun. This is how Kaaf looks at the beginning. So it looks a bit different to the actual letter by itself. Walakinna. So the Kaaf looks like how it is in the beginning. And at the end, it looks like the letter by itself. Ulaika. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Same thing, gold letters and then the ones at the bottom, please.
Ka, ki, ku,
So the ka could be a bit more empty in your mouth.
ka, ki, ku,
Good.
katibun,
So that one should be more empty.
katibun.
Excellent. What are you doing to make it more empty? Explain what's happening in your mouth.
I'm smiling more.
Good, good. So say it one more time for me.
Katibun,
Excellent. Very good. Next.
walakinna,
Good. Just make the lam empty as well, please.
walakinna,
So at the moment you're saying wala, or it should be wala. So smile. Walakinna.
walakinna,
Excellent. And last one.
ulaika,
Kaf a bit more emptier.
ulaika,
Ka. Ulaika.
ulaika.
Excellent. Very good. Very well done. Assalamu alaikum.
السلام عليكم.
Assalamu rahmatullah. If you can have a go as well, please.
كاكيكم كو.
So with the ku, I want you to circle your lips. So when you say dhamma, I know we haven't covered it yet, but when you say dhamma, I want you to really circle your lips. Ku, ku,
كو
ku.
كو.
Good. And then the words at the bottom.
كاتب
Good.
ولكن
Good.
أولئك.
Good. Ulaika. So you wouldn't pronounce the waw here. Ulaika.
أولئك.
So here you're not going to stress. You're not going to say ooh. Pretend that wow is not even there. Ula, ula.
أولئك.
Good. Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام. ك كي كو
Good.
كاتب ولكن أولئك.
Excellent. Very good. Very well done. Okay. So, alhamdulillah, students 100% on that one. Let's move on. So that is Lahawiyyah done. Now we're going to move on to Shajariyyah. Okay. Now here you have three letters. Jeem, Sheen, Ya. And we'll discuss common mistakes with these shortly, but Jeem, Sheen, and Ya. So let's begin with Jeem. Jeem. In terms of the definition, it is exactly the same for all three letters. Okay. Middle of the tongue touches the upper palate. Jeem, Sheen, Ya. It's exactly the same. The common mistake with Jeem is people do not make it firm enough. So they say Jeem. So notice the difference. Jeem versus Jeem. Jeem. Jeem, Jeem. Okay. So it needs to be more firmer and more, it needs to hit harder. Jeem, more conviction in it. Okay. Ja, ji, ju, ja'ala, raji'una, and yukhrij. Yukhrij. Now, why did I bounce on that Jeem? You might have noticed I didn't say yukhrij. I said yukhrij. And this is something called qalqala, which we'll discuss in a few weeks' time, inshallah. So, my first volunteer.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu rahmatullah.
Ja, ji, ju.
So good. I want you to do it more empty mouth though. So instead of saying ja, I want you to say ja. So smile when you say it. So have a smile. Use
Ja.
this as your template, and then say ja.
Ja,
Good. Next one.
ji,
Again, empty, a bit more smiley. G, G,
ji,
G.
ji,
I hear like a bit of an E sound in it. G, G.
ji,
I hear like a J, a bit of a J sound. G, G.
ji,
Good. And Ju,
ju,
Ju.
ju.
Good. Do those three for me again.
Ja, ji, ju.
Again, make the ja empty, smiley. Make it more smiley. Ja, G, Ju.
Ja, ji, ju.
Okay. And if you haven't got the words at the bottom as well,
Ja'ala.
again, empty mouth. Ja'ala, ja instead of ja. Ja.
Ja'ala.
Again.
Ja'ala.
Ja'ala, ja'ala.
Ja'ala.
And the ayn, if you can make the ayn stronger. Ah.
Ja'ala.
Good. Ja'ala.
Raji'un.
Again.
Raji'un.
Raji'una.
Raji'una.
So stretch the ra. Raji'una.
Raji'una.
Good. And the last one.
Munriju.
Yukhrij. Yukhrij.
Ikhriju.
Yukhrij.
Ikhrij.
Good. Just make the Jeem stronger. Yukhrij. Yukhrij.
Ikhrija.
So don't make it into fatha though, but that's fine. Jazakallah khairah. So what I'd ask you to work on there is just making it more empty mouth and smiley. Okay. So make your
Thank
tongue
you.
more flatter and smilier. Yeah.
Thank you.
Jazakallah khairah. Next one is Sheen. Here again, exact same makhraj. Sheen, Sheen. Sha, she, shu. Sha, she, shu. Shay'in, ashaddu. Arsh. Arsh. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Sha, she, shu.
Again.
Sha, she, shu.
Do the first one. I couldn't hear the first one clearly.
Sha,
Good. Middle one.
she,
Good. Next one.
shu.
Good. And then the words at the bottom.
Shay'in,
Again, a bit more firmer. Shay'in.
shay'in.
Good.
Ashaddu.
Good.
Arsh.
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 Good. Good. Jazakallah khairah.
Assalamu
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum.
alaikum. Sha, she, shu,
Good.
shay'in, ashaddu, arsh.
Good. Arsh. Yeah, but this the ra would be full mouth here. Arsh.
Arsh.
Yeah. Jazakallah khairah. And I think we have one letter left. So let's move on to that so that we don't go over, inshallah. So, yeah. Now, this is, again, same thing. Now, here, what happens is, and I've heard people do this, when the ya is not firm enough, it becomes like almost like a Jeem. Yeah. So, for example, if I say ya ayyuhal ladina, some people say ja ayyuhal, making it like a Jeem. So that's very incorrect. Same with the words iyyaka. When you say Surah Al-Fatiha, iyyaka na'budu, some people say that sound comes in. So that's a weakness in the pronunciation. Yeah. So the ya needs to be firm. Iyyaka instead of iyyaka. Iyyaka versus iyyaka. Okay. So let's move on to ya, yi, you, and yaqulu, alimun, alladhi. Assalamu alaikum.
Ya, wa alaikum assalam. Ya, ji, you.
So that
Yeah.
you that you had a bit of a, so you,
You.
good, better,
يقول
good,
أليم الذي.
good. In summary, beautify your recitation, and we've covered two areas: Lahawiyyah, which is Qaaf and Kaaf; Shajariyyah, which is Sheen, Jeem, and Ya;